So I now stand between you guys and your break, so I'll try to be very efficient with my time. But today I'm going to be talking about the new SEO playbook, and then really try to set up the other speakers too, because I think there's a lot of good information that we have to share at this conference. So first and foremost, just a quick introduction on myself. My name is Eric Su, and main company I have is a company called Single Grain and more tech-enabled services. And we've kind of updated our mission recently. And our mission now as a company is to be the marketing partner that companies never outgrow. And so internally, we've been talking and we're like, how do we actually live that? Because it's tough to live that, right? Because you have to constantly be ahead. You have to be skating to where the puck is going. And by the way, if you want the slides, there's a QR code there. The final slide will also have the QR code as well. And then final thing I'll say here is that I do a podcast with my friend Neil called Marketing School, a polarizing marketing character. And I also dabble with my little YouTube channel too. So how I want to set this up initially is talking about where things are going right now. And I'm going to try to talk about things from an SEO standpoint because my background's in SEO, but I also want to talk about things from a business standpoint too. How do we tie all this stuff to the bottom line? So if we look at some of these companies over here, Cursor, $0 to $100 million in annual recurring revenue in less than 21 months. Midjourney got to about $200 million in ARR, 2 years or so. Lovable, $0 to $10 million or so in 2 months. Now we look at this, the team sizes are also super small too. 20 people, 10 people, 15 people, 15 people to get to these numbers. Now you look at them now, Cursor approaching 500 million in annual recurring revenue. Midjourney already 500 million annual recurring revenue. They're raising at multi-billion-dollar valuations. The team sizes have gotten a little bigger, but they're not super big as large as they were before. Lovable, 100 million as of July and about 45 people or so. And so how does this tie in with marketing? We'll get there in a second. It's important for us to look at this chart over here because the reality is we all pay for intelligence. We're all paid right now for our intelligence, right? That's before we're paying people for farming, the industrial age, before we're paying people to light lanterns, right? Back in the day. But these aren't even the latest models, right? When you look at the cost for the O3 model back in the day, you're paying what? It looks like O3 Pro $80 or so, okay? $40 for O3 for API output. And you look at it now, the costs are dropping $80 to $40 to $8 or so, right? And in some cases, when you look at OpenAI's costs, $15 for about 1 million tokens or so, and you compare it to DeepSeek. So what's my point here? My point here is that the cost of intelligence is dropping. And I know this conference is called Evolve. We can say that we all have to evolve. If I were to tie this all in with one point over here, I'm hearing from people all the time, Eric, what am I supposed to do with my career? And you're going to hear from Ryan tomorrow, like, what are we supposed to do with SEOs, with our skills? And that is the key thing here, because if the cost of intelligence is dropping, we can either complain about it, like a lot of SEOs like on Twitter or X like to complain about it, or we can do something about it. And I would prefer that, I'm more in the latter camp, right? I prefer that we do something about it. So the way in which we're doing marketing is changing. I was actually just talking to Patrick backstage. And so the cool thing is, just quick show of hands real quick. Who here uses MCPs, Model Context Protocols? Okay, so like a decent chunk of you. I'm going to say it's like maybe 10% or so. So I'm not going to try to go too technical here, but Ahrefs actually has an MCP. So Model Context Protocol is just basically you have your app, your LLM talking to your different apps, right? You can talk to Ahrefs, you can query different data. Where we're at right now with this is kind of the stack. So you look at Cursor's up there. How many of you actually use Cursor? Anybody? Okay, I'm pretty sure your engineers probably use Cursor. It's our engineers use Cursor, and it saves them a ton of time. It's a code editor, and it helps them. It helps us do our work faster from a coding standpoint, right? But as marketers now, think about it this way. If you had the ability to leverage some of these tools, you can leverage Cursor, Claude Code, all of these things, which sound super technical and scary. It's not that bad, because if you can each create 10 or 20 sub-employees in a span of minutes and run them, you can do your work a lot faster, right? And a lot of us don't want to, like SEO, especially the rote SEO work that we have to do. We have to reach out to people. We have to follow up with people, right? We have to, wrangle a bunch of things together. All this analysis that we have to do. We have to do this link analysis over here, this competitor analysis over here. Nobody wants to do that, right? And so the beauty of where marketing is going now is we're moving into a world where it's becoming multi-instance. And this is an example of, I used to play online poker. This guy's name's Elke. And back in the day when I used to play online poker, I used to play maybe 16 tables at once. This guy plays like 48 tables at once. This is where marketing is going. If I go back one slide over here, if we look at this, if I look at Ahrefs, what I can do now, I can call on my HubSpot and say, hey, look at the last 6 months data or so, which channels are converting the highest. Then I want you to pull from my Gong data, hey, what's happening in sales calls over here? What are the things that people are continuing to repeat? And then I can call on the Ahrefs MCP and say, hey, based on all the sales calls that you're seeing, all the data that I have in my CRM, I want you to tell me the trending, the emerging keywords that are happening, and the other pillars that maybe I should be going for. And then maybe you can draft a couple of ideas for me. I can pick those ideas, and then I can connect with the WordPress MCP over here, and then draft a couple of posts, and then I can have a human in the loop come in and make sure that it looks good, okay? So you can see where this is going now. And actually, Glenn also published something, I think, a day or two ago on how you can leverage the Ahrefs MCP. And my conversation with Patrick back there was, man, he's like, yeah, nobody's going to want to figure this stuff out. Like, it's too technical. It's a pain in the butt to set it up. But I guarantee you, if you spend 3 to 5 hours setting this stuff up, for the next maybe 6 to 12 months or so, you'll be ahead. And there's new stuff coming up with AI all the time. But my whole thing is we have to adapt, right? We can't just sit and wait for the things to happen. And I'm 99.99% sure when, I don't know if it's you, Tim, or somebody else talking about the new stuff coming out with Ahrefs, the reality is people just want this stuff done for us, right? But if you can figure out where where you can skate to where the puck is going, you're going to be fine. And so all these things over here, there's a Zapier MCP, a Gong MCP, a Figma MCP. You can basically, you could have a terminal app, and then basically what you're going to be able to do is you can have your competitors. You can look at your competitors. Hey, tell me about my competitor strategy. How much are they spending on ads right now? What does their strategy look like? How is it different than these competitors over here? You can do the same thing with Ahrefs as well. You can do all your competitor analysis, all your link analysis. You can do it that way. And yes, it's a pain in the butt to set up, but literally, you know what, you want to know what I did? I basically just went on Upwork and I spent $50 an hour and I hired a Claude Code or a Cursor coach, $50 an hour. A guy from China now coaches my entire team on how to set this up. And the time savings that you get from this, but more so the money that you generate from this, because we're talking about money as well. I know that from one of the pages that we generated, right? People like to poo-poo on programmatic SEO. It still works, right? If we're talking about generating pages at scale, you look at TripAdvisor, Expedia, still works. We generated a page recently using this setup. We got a client from it. I think this was like a month ago, and this client added about $50,000 in monthly recurring revenue for us. So for us, it's a decent contract. It's not the biggest, but it's a decent contract. So when I say the future of marketing is multi-instance, this is what I mean. It's starting to feel like a video game, because you can have multiple tabs of these running at the same time. And the way where we're going is we're going to be orchestrating a bunch of these things. And when I interview people now for gigs at my company, I constantly ask them, I'm like, where do you guys think things are going right now? What's going to happen to your job in the next 5 years? It doesn't matter if it's paid media. It doesn't matter if it's SEO. They're like, I think I'm going to be orchestrating a bunch of these different AI agents. And it's the people that say that are often the people that are spending a little amount of their own money on AI. So that's why I'd say the future marketing is going to be multi-instance. And maybe for the next year or two, maybe you're playing with something like this. And then it's just going to be, hey, everything's just going to be done for you. It'll read your mind. It knows everything that you're thinking. It knows, a lot about your personal life. It already does if you're in ChatGPT. So I'm going to kind of run through these slides quickly because I know it's hard to see what's happening up here. But you can actually see on the right side, these are focused B2B transactional keywords. These are all from Ahrefs, and Ahrefs is actually showing me, hey, the keyword difficulty is this right here. Here's where you rank for this. Here's what you should be optimizing for. This is an example of a programmatic page that the Ahrefs MCP popped out. And I'm not going to say it's perfect. Maybe it's 80-90% there. We still want a human in the loop when we're doing this AI stuff, right? And I know I'm going really quickly. You might have to rewatch this or check out the slides again. But my point is, it goes back to adaptation. Okay, so you look at this over here, 80-90% there, but these are what these programmatic pages look like, at least for my business. So you can look at it as a tech-enabled service. You can look at it as a marketing agency. I also use it for coming up with YouTube ideas. I know Sam's going to be speaking about YouTube. YouTube is one of the biggest opportunities, I believe, for the next decade or so, because it's the second largest search engine. And I think as SEOs, we don't take it nearly as seriously as we should. And sometimes when I talk to SEOs, they're like, oh, yeah, I think YouTube's really important. Okay, yeah, so what would you do with YouTube? Well, I think it's really important to optimize for the keywords and the tags and all these things. Like, that's base level, right? And I'm sure when Sam talks about it either later today or tomorrow, there's a lot more. There's a meta to every game. And when we think about meta, I'm not talking about the ad platform. I'm saying that there is an optimized way of playing for each platform. There's a game for each of these channels, right? And we have to think about, as SEOs, the reason I'm so proud to be here amongst other SEOs is because that's where I cut my teeth. That's my background. And as SEOs, we've always been the most adaptable. We've always had to learn. We've always had to adapt to different algorithms. And this is the best opportunity for us. I actually think some of my best friends who are founders are actually some of the best SEOs that I know. They cut their teeth with SEOs first, and then they continue to grow. They continue to compound. And I think if we can do it, I think anybody can do it, right? And I think this is the perfect setup for us to win. And I think it's not really productive for us to blame Google for this or blame this SEO for this or have any envy for other people. I think it's just important for us to focus on ourselves and just continue to get better very quickly, to evolve or to adapt. So you heard Patrick say a little earlier, search everywhere optimization got the most votes, and that was interesting to me. Because the game is it's no longer just Google, right? If we look at this, 15 years ago, maybe the only game in town was very much Google. And that's not the case anymore. And people in marketing, they like to say, oh, it's the rule of 7. They need to see your brand maybe 7 times before they take an action. It's not the case anymore. I think it's more like the rule of 14 or the rule of 21. And there's more and more data coming out about this. Now, this graph that you see over here, this is Shopify, Zapier, HubSpot. These are the communities for these websites, right? And obviously, we know UGCs continue to move up and to the right. Okay, we've got to do UGC. Reddit's up here. We talked about Reddit. Reddit's fairly spammy right now. It's pretty easy to game right now. A lot of this feels like early days SEO, right? But just because it's easy to game doesn't mean that we should do it, right? That might be the game right now, but I guarantee you in a year or two, maybe even sooner than that, that will no longer be the game. We talked about YouTube, Amazon, if we're optimizing for shopping. We have to consider all these channels when we're doing SEO now. It's very much everywhere. Now, I just mentioned that everything's moving quickly. Last week, ChatGPT just came out with ChatGPT apps. And so, oh crap, is this a new App Store optimization moment for us? Do we need to think about this? And I guarantee you, there are people, your competitors, if not your team, is already talking about this. So how do we start to optimize this for this now? We're already talking to our customers about this, and we're just saying, hey, we don't know if this is going to be really big, but the risk reward here is too great. Like, we have to think about doing something like this. And if we rank number 1, early days App Store optimization, early days iOS, guess what? You get to reap the rewards for a little bit, right? So that just came out last week. So we're looking at that. I'm talking to my CTO every day. We're just talking about what we can do. ChatKit. This might even be bigger. So last week, ChatGPT came out with its workflows, right? Like, those of you that are familiar with Zapier or N8N, you have these little workflow tools. The cool thing with ChatGPT ChatKit is anybody on your team, your employees, you can build these workflows. Guess what? If you have a SaaS product, you can hook it in with your SaaS product. And that's what we're doing now for our SaaS products. We're literally running through a contest for my entire team right now. And we're running people through Lindy.ai. And Lindy is a little workflow tool that we use. And what we do with Lindy is we're just saying, hey, everybody's going to share their workflows at the end of the month, and we will pay you. The winner gets $500, second place gets $250, third place gets $100. And we're just going to keep running these contests. But everyone has to build a workflow. They have to share it through Loom, and then we're all going to vote. What's going to happen is that skill will then translate over into ChatKit. As ChatGPT improves its workflowing tools, our team's going to know how to build these, and whatever problems they're solving at the front lines, we're going to be able to plug it in with whatever product that we have. So I think this is going to be a huge opportunity. So we're talking about where the puck is going. For sure, this is where the puck is going, right? We're talking about 800 million users here. Now, the other piece here is, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to, this is Sam's talk, but on the YouTube side of things. So this is an interview that I did with Seth Godin, and occasionally I will have videos that will pop off, maybe 100K, 200K views or so, 600K. I think Ahrefs has actually done a really good job with their YouTube channel. But these drive leads for us. I remember for Karrot, which is our LinkedIn account-based marketing product, I was talking to one of these enterprise leads. I was just on the phone with him, and I was like, so how did you hear about us? And he's like, to be honest, I was using the restroom and watching one of your videos, and then I signed up, right? And so, like, you never know where these people come from, right? But my point is, this right here, the reason we do this, the reason I'm going to take this recording and put it on my YouTube channel as well, is because this builds a relationship, right? We're having a well, it's like a one-way conversation right now, but at least we're doing this in person. I'll hang out with some of you afterwards. But the key thing here is just SEO is no longer just Google. And I think a lot of old school SEOs, we still tend to play that game. We're just super optimized on, hey, like, this code over here, or this, we're talking about crawl budget, or this is uncrawlable. Like that's all very important. But we need to also broaden our horizons as well as SEOs. Talking about playbooks here. So when I go into ChatGPT and I search for what's the best marketing podcast, Marketing School pops up. Am I saying that to brag? No, not necessarily. I'm saying that because we are not necessarily, I don't think we're the best marketing podcast by any means. I just think we've been the most consistent. And that's why reviews have continued to compound for us over time. The number of pages that we have continues to compound. I think it's over 3,000 episodes now. I think we've done it for 7-8 years and we haven't missed any episodes. And so whether, he's having a child or whatever, or whether I'm sick, it doesn't matter. We're just going to keep going. And so I think that consistency has continued to compound. And I think if we're looking to build, a generational marketing channel, for example, it's going to take us a couple years. If we're looking to build a generational business, that takes 20 to 30 years to build a generational business. And you just keep going. And I think most people give up too early. And I think if you want the reviews, you want the links, the LLMs are also going to look at brand sentiment as well. Like, how are these people being talked about? That stuff all compounds, and that's what leads to this this number one here. And it's not like we tried to optimize for it, right? So to what Patrick said a little earlier, it's more around, how can we continue to provide the best value to our customers? It's not how do we try to figure out how we can game the algorithm. And that's what I learned over time. I think all the short-term stuff has never worked out well. But when we think about doing, you look at old days of black hat SEO. If you think about doing black hat SEO in a white hat way, that compounds for a lot longer. And that's what we're looking for. Now, I believe that almost everyone is, earlier we talked about agentic workflows, right? We talked about, if this, then that, these different workflows that you can build. So this is one of our products that we use internally for our clients called ClickFlow. And this is how we think about distribution now. People like to say, oh, distribution is all that matters now. I don't think that's the case. I think distribution is nice, but retention is a lot nicer than that. And so this is one of our ways of, sure, driving people in and maybe giving products away for free. And that's what we use. And our offer here is we'll give you 10,000 words for free. Okay. So there's a lot of different great tools out there. I'm sure Ahrefs is going to do this as well. My take on software, again, is just, eventually it's just going to be, can you just do it for me? And that's where it's all going to go. Okay. So our whole thing is like, how do we give as much for free as possible right now? And our framework now is, when we think about a business, how do we build a funnel that works? Well, how do we have a really good offer? Maybe it's 10,000 words over here, okay? Or maybe with Karrot, we're going to give you, a free account, and you can make 20 LinkedIn customized ads or something like that. So we start with the offer first. And earlier I just mentioned 10,000 words, and then people can sign up, and then there's a reverse trial. And what a reverse trial is those of you who have used Grammarly is interesting because you might be using the free version, but they'll give you a couple bytes of the premium version every single month, and then you have to refresh, okay? Eventually you get hooked on that, and then they get more signups that way. And so for them, I think it increased their signups, their paid signups by about 20% or so, and they're already a pretty big company. And so how do we keep people in our ecosystem once we get them in? And I think at least a lot of marketers don't think enough about retention, and they might say, oh, it's not my job. But it kind of is. Like, the more you think about business as a whole, the better you'll do as a marketer. Because our ultimate goal here as marketers is to serve the business, right? To grow the business. And then from there, you expand. And for us, we look at, and I'm sure some of you do this already too, it's okay, based on the reverse trial, based on user behavior, how do we look at product qualified leads, and how do we then have our sales team reach out and talk to these people? So we want as many touch points as possible to get people in, and then we want to expand people, and we want to hold people for as long as we can. That's how we think about this framework now. Now, some of you are probably familiar. It's like, sure, it's like Eric's talking about, all these tools, like I can't code. Well, the cool thing is we all have developer skills now. Like, vibe coding is becoming more popular. This is Replit. And the cool thing about Replit is I did this over a weekend, by the way. Replit is becoming better and better. It's a vibe coding product where you can just type in what you want to build and it builds it for you. This is actually just one of our Slack recruiting agents, okay? So we have a lot of recruiters that are helping us. Sure, that's fine. But there's also a handful of tools that we use too. this Slack recruiting agent, we just plug it into one of our channels and people can ask for it to help source people for us. And we hook it in with a handful of different tools. But I didn't need to know how to code to get this to maybe 80% there, 90% there. In fact, you could literally take out your phone, open up Replit, and start having it work for you as you're waiting in line to get lunch or something like that. And so Replit's not paying me to say this. Nobody's paying me to mention their tools or anything like that. But I just think you just need to go the extra mile and you'll be ahead of 99% of people in this new world that we're in right now. I'll share a story with you. I was talking to a guy earlier this week, and he works for about a company that has about 75,000 people or so. It's an agency. And I know we have someone from WPP speaking, so I'm not going to poo-poo on agencies, but here's what he said, because literally I have an agency too. So he said, on the AI side, I think we're trying as an agency, but we're too slow. We're like a giant tanker that's trying to turn right now, and we can't turn quickly enough. And he's like, to be honest, I'm being poached by companies like WPP or Publicis, and I'm not interested. I'm like, why are you not interested? Because it's like, it's going to be the same deal. All these companies are trying to exit right now because they see the writing on the wall, right? And so like, I'm just listening to him. I'm not saying it's true or not true. And so I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? He's like, I'm going to try to go to a company that's very AI forward. You have the leadership that's driving AI, and I'm going to try to move to a smaller company that's more nimble. And I thought that was interesting. And then, I was looking at what one of the other Y Combinator partners was talking about earlier this week. And Y Combinator, obviously, they back Dropbox, Airbnb. And he said that, look, companies are having a very difficult time right now recruiting engineers because a lot of the code is being written by AI code editors. And what they're finding is when they're talking to these engineers, their heads in the sand and they're not on top of these new tools. And I was looking at that. I'm like, okay, sure, engineers, but this directly applies to us as marketers as well. It directly applies to us as SEOs. And so, whether it's using Replit, whether it's using Cursor and setting up, the Ahrefs MCPs and figuring out how this stuff works, maybe hiring a tutor to do this for you, we all have the agency to do this. And that's why, again, I keep coming back to this word. We got to adapt. We have to adapt. Otherwise, we're going to grow bitter and then we might end up out of a job, right? We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to continue on here. This is one of the products that we have called Karrot. And we built this last year. Someone was talking to us. They're like, Eric, we need a way to build LinkedIn ads, personalized ads at scale. Right now, it takes us weeks to do it. We're like, okay, so we built this thing. Now, all that to say is, before we fully built this out, I just put a screenshot up of the UI and I threw it up on LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn to me, organic reach is strong, right? Search everywhere. We're talking about not just Google. LinkedIn works very well here. This post alone drove about, I think it was 500 leads, and 100 of them were super qualified enterprises, okay? Not only that, this post also caused 3 copycats immediately off of one post, off of our unproven UI. But my point of showing you this is that, we might be thinking, oh, we don't have interesting things to share right now. I think that the most important thing for us too is, people talk about distribution, right? How do you build distribution for yourself? How do you become known? And some of you do create content, right? Can you just talk about your journey? Can you share your journey as you go along? And sometimes things will pop off and people want to work with you, right? And so for us, it's multi-layered. It's like, okay, how do we build stuff, give it away for free? How do we share what we're doing exactly? How do we get more organic reach that way? How do we share it on YouTube? How do we just compound as much as possible and try to increase our surface area of luck? That's what we're trying to do. And by the way, as you continue to build, if whether you vibe code something or you build something from scratch with ClickFlow, we released that less than a year ago, this new version of ClickFlow. And I was talking to one of our SEOs last week. I said, okay, when we first launched it, how much time was it saving you? She's like, no, honestly, it was pretty janky, maybe like 20 hours a month. That's significant. I was like, okay, how much time are you saving per month right now with ClickFlow? 55 hours a month as an individual. I'm like, okay, great. And she's like, okay, it would be nice if you built out these workflows, X, Y, and Z. Okay, how much time would that save you? 30 hours. So my point is, ClickFlow's, that's internal for us. I'm not saying you need to use ClickFlow. I'm just sharing a story with you. Like, you look at Ahrefs, guaranteed they're building stuff that's going to do it all for you. It's going to be great. I look at Lindy, for example. That's a workflow tool that we have. We literally have bots that will sit in our internal meetings and help coach people on how to run better meetings and score the meetings. It will coach them on how to run better interviews for people because we have a recruiting problem right now. And so the more you leverage this power, not just from an SEO standpoint, but also internally, the more leverage you're going to have not just at work, but in your career. You're going to become super defensible, right? You're building a moat around your career, where people are talking about, oh my God, I'm going to lose my jobs or whatever. And I don't think that's the case. I think if you're enhanced with AI, you're going to be a much stronger SEO, and you're going to perform a lot better and drive a lot more value for your business. Everyone's talking about AI right now, but people are struggling to prove the business ROI of AI. Now with Single Grain, which is my ad agency, that is not an issue because we try to stay at the forefront of AI. We leverage AI not only to make our team more efficient and faster, but to make your business more efficient. And the things that we do around marketing, it's still our bread and butter, but when we combine that with our AI prowess, that's what allows our clients to grow a lot faster. So if you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in acquiring customers faster, go to singlegrain.com. Again, singlegrain.com, and we'll see you on the other side. Earlier, we talked about real world wins. And this is just an example. Like people like to say, programmatic SEO is dead, right? And so I'm just showing to you that it still works for us. It still drives leads for us. And a lot of the old stuff with SEO, listicle outreach, guess what? That works well for LLMs now, right? Reddit. As I was talking to someone maybe a month ago, he's like, yeah, I've cracked Reddit, Eric. I'm like, how have you cracked Reddit? He's like, oh, yeah, I have like 30 laptops sitting over there and he's basically just spamming Reddit, right? And so don't play that game. Play the long-term game. Do the black hat stuff in a white hat way, right? I'm happy to talk about that outside. The other thing here too is this. All those SOPs that we've created as SEOs or in our business, they're valuable now. All these Loom videos, all these SOPs that nobody reads, guess what? When you pass it over to like a Manus or a GenSpark or any of these agentic tools, they can actually watch your videos. And then what's going to happen in the next couple of months? They can actually start to do the work for you. In many cases, I'll dump one of my, I remember I was dumping one of our recruiting sourcing videos into Manus, which is like another AI tool. And it actually started to source for us. It forced me to log into a couple of things and it started to source for us, right? So it's incumbent on us to not only figure out the AI stuff, but to figure out what's all the rote work, the boring work that I hate doing right now, but also what's the new work that we can be doing, right? For example, the coaching bots I told you about earlier, coaching people on how to run a meeting, coaching people on their priorities. Because if you're running a business or you're a leader, or if you're managing other people, you want to know that people are working on the highest leverage things, okay? And that applies to you as an SEO every single day too. Let's say you're starting out in your career right now. Every single day, what is the highest leverage thing I can be working on right now? And then you apply that to the rest of your career, and then you'll compound much faster than anybody else. So this is the future that we're moving into. You're going to have a human AI operator. Then you're going to have maybe an agent manager, and then you're going to have a bunch of agents or sub-agents or agentic workflows helping you out here. And so my challenge to everyone today is to start building your leverage today. Start stacking. Maybe you work on one agentic workflow. Maybe you're just the yellow line over here. And then you continue to stack on. You start to stack on multiple sub-agents, multiple agentic workflows to do a lot of the SEO work that you hate doing. Okay, then you become not just a 10x employee or a person at your company, you become 100x. And at that point, if you're a business owner and you see that person becoming 100x, it would be stupid for you not to reward that person and pay them double, triple their salary, give them incentives, give them profit sharing, because you want this person to stay at your company forever, and because 99.99% of people are not doing this right now. So the bad news right now is marketing is getting harder every single day. SEO is getting harder every single day. But the good news is that you have a golden opportunity in front of you, right? So most people aren't going to take it, but you're not most people. You guys are here to learn. You guys are here to get better. So don't be like most people. And so the final thing I'll say here is that here's those of you who are that know any amazing SEOs. I was telling Tim this yesterday. If you know any amazing SEOs or SEO leaders, please have them DM me. I will kick you $5,000 if you make the hire. That's my hard pitch. But here's the QR code. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.